Welcome to Real Talk Food Safety with Tia and Jill.
Welcome. We are excited to see you today. Put in the
Yes,
comments so we can actually see who's here, who's listening, and let us know where are you listening from.
yes. And today we're going to pivot a little bit because sometimes technology doesn't always work. And
Mhm.
the weather we have been having in the United States, probably globally, has created a bit of a havoc for us to be able to bring our guest on today. So, we are going to do a special episode and we'll get back with Maggie because we want to share her with you, the audience. But today
Yes.
we're going to pivot and we are going to talk about a few things that have been coming up, but we also are going to open it up for like question hour.
Yes. So if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. We'll make sure that we address it. But then also, what do you have going on? What are the pain points that you see in food safety? What is something that you need to have a real talk about as you look to develop your people, as you look to strengthen your culture, as you look to maybe change roles or be a better leader yourself?
Hmm.
What are those barriers that stand in the way, or advice that you may need, or just those pain points around that? That's
Yeah.
what we're having a conversation about today.
Well, and we can even share like, what are you working on in 2024?
Oh, yeah.
Last week, right? We had an amazing vision board workshop. I'm so
Yes,
pumped. So
it
if
was.
you were there, I would love to hear your thoughts on it. But from our end, I think it was awesome to bring this tool that's typically used just in our personal, like spiritual type lives and other places, like integrate it into how we live every day.
Mm-hmm.
That was
Mm-hmm.
awesome.
It was awesome. And it was one of the things too, one of the feedback that we got was, wow, I wasn't really expecting that.
Mhm.
Coming from some right, people think they're going to join and we're going to do this technical work around food safety and quality. But we know culture and people are so much more than that. So we're here to help you take time to do the other stuff that
Mhm.
strengthen your cultures, right? To help people execute your programs and processes better, right? Like that's where we fall in, and that's a space that we play in a lot. And so when people come and say, "Wow, I wasn't really expecting that, but I was able to develop goals for my team during the vision workshop," like that's when we're like, yes, yes. Because we know that leading is so much more, right, than HACCP and PCQI and allergen control. Like food safety culture is more than just that. So we're here to kind of shed a spotlight, right, on people.
That's what it's all about. And
Mm-hmm.
I finally found, uh, of course, and it slips my mind now that I'm thinking about it. The quote, right? When you take care of people, they take care of business.
Yes,
It's as
yes,
simple as that. But right, we don't put people first.
yeah.
We think of them, from a business standpoint, as harsh as it may say, a business sees people as assets.
Mm-hmm.
And we may say, gosh, no, I'm really like, I don't do that. I don't see that. But at the end of the day, when people are like, we're going to have to cut your team, what does that look like?
Right,
They're talking about assets.
right, exactly.
And that's why
Exactly.
this culture conversation, we all intuitively know that it's important and we need to do it. But that's why those pain points of like, how do we move it forward? What does it look like? How does it fit with the other things we have going on this year? How do we move it up the ladder for priority?
Yeah, yeah, that's important, Jill. Like, even as we talk about like people being assets, like that is true in business. And I mean, that's regardless of what function you work in, right? How much money you're bringing to the
Mhm.
organization, you're still an asset. And so, if we think about that, right, it doesn't mean that because we're an asset, we're going to have a toxic culture, right? Or
True.
because we're assets doesn't mean that our leaders don't care about who we are as people and we can't bring our whole self to work, right? It doesn't necessarily mean that, but you want to have those thoughts around how does culture relate to your broader business plan, and how does that help your people be more successful at work and be those trusted business partners that we talk about often, right, for food safety and quality, on how can we be better business partners for the organization, where the things that we work on, we know are tied to organizational goals. But how do we structure the way that we communicate, the way that we have conversations with other people to show that we are these trusted business partners and we should be at the table and we do add value, right, to the organization and is a huge part of business growth. Those are the things that we teach all of our business that works with us, even the small
Yes.
businesses that we're consulting with. We also teach them the importance of food safety and how that enables business growth.
And I love that you bring that up because I think when just even now, when I was thinking about an asset, I think of it as like just a tally on the spreadsheet.
Yeah.
But even if we think about, I don't know, a stuffer, cutting machine, EVIS equipment, packaging equipment, they're all assets.
Yeah.
And we still look to see how do we optimize them?
Yes.
What can we do to make them have less defects? How do we help them go faster? How do we help them do things right the first time better?
Yeah.
So maybe when we think about how we apply that to people as assets, it's
Hmm.
the same concept.
Yeah. Yeah. And we see like a few of us, right? And like raise your hand, let me know. Like a few of us have been in those facilities where the company is not taking care of their equipment, right? It's falling apart, it's stopping, every 5 minutes, everyone's struggling with to get the equipment back up and going. And you have conversations with people and they say, yes, that's going to happen. We're dealing with an issue. Maybe the organization is not investing in it. Like we see
Mhm.
equipment, it gets tired like people, right? It gets worn like people. If you are not oiling it and making sure you're doing your PMs and making sure that you do the software updates, whatever it
Yeah.
happens to be. If
Treating
you're
it
not,
with TLC.
yeah, that TLC, right? We see it happening. It's almost, I was having a conversation with someone around manufacturing excellence in organizations who take that to heart, right? And they really work on investing in their assets like packaging, but also packaging equipment, but also people, right? Like that's all around manufacturing excellence versus organizations that might not be focused on that. You see it in all of their assets, including their people.
You do. And it was one of the messages that we had when we were with Perennia on the webinar yesterday,
Yeah.
where we talked about like that investing in people
Hmm.
and helping people be successful because, right, the stats are from the World Economic Forum that what 40% of the skills we know are not the ones that we need in 5 years.
Yeah, 44%. It was 44%.
Some amount, right? That's
Yeah,
shifting. And so
wild.
we have to think about how are we preparing our assets to still be valuable down the road
Yeah,
and
right.
and increase that value. So, right, that's an important aspect of what we do as not just technical experts, right? This is stepping into being technical leaders. And how do we continue that path for us and for those around us?
Yes, yes. Hi, Kimberly. Welcome
Hey,
from
Kimberly.
fabulous Las Vegas.
Whoop, whoop. And it's probably not, is it snowy there?
Yeah.
I'm so curious because it seems like what I keep hearing from around the country is snow, snow, snow in places we don't expect it.
Oh, yeah. We're definitely snowing on the East Coast and snow. I'm,
Yes.
I'm from Tennessee. We were talking to Maggie right before we got on. They had a lot of snow in Tennessee, so we're kind of snowed out for
Yes,
a
we are
little
snowed
bit.
out. So,
So
yes.
welcome, welcome. If this is your first time joining us at Real Talk, oh, no, no snow yet. Oh, I like yet. Maybe you'll see some. But if this is your first time joining us on Real Talk Food Safety, I am Tia and this is Jill, and we are the co-founders of Catalyst. And our mission is to transform the way people lead in food. And we talked a little bit about it, and we're going to get more into pain points today. And please join us in the comments, letting us know your perspectives and your pain points. But this is what we do, right? Like our whole goal is to change the way people lead because even though as people we are assets to a business, right? We can get so much more out of our people. And honestly, we can get ourselves, right, working. We can get so much joy, right, out
Mhm.
of the work that we do. if we're allowed to live authentically, right, show up as our full selves, be able to know, right, that our organizations are there to take care of us from a business sense, and we can take care of ourselves outside of work, that's when we really see our business grow,
Mhm.
because people are all in, right? Like we show an engagement number, and we did yesterday during the Perina webinar, is that only a third of people are highly engaged. Like, think about that, right? Out of 10 people, only 3 are really going to be engaged in the work that you're doing.
Mhm.
So that means the type of work that you can do goes down to a third, because you have 70% other people in your organization that maybe show up, right? There. And then they're just a person. They're just a person there, maybe checking their emails, maybe
Making
answering
it through the day.
questions, making it through the day, right?
Mhm.
But what if you can get one more person engaged?
Yeah. Even 10% more engaged.
What if?
So maybe they're not fully engaged or every day because, right, it's a journey.
Hmm.
But what if you could get more out of them?
Yeah.
Because, right, we keep hearing, well, there's still so much turnover. It's hard to find people. We have
Mhm.
shortages. So people are kind of hesitant. Well, some organizations and some teams are hesitant to let people go, even if they're not contributing what they need,
Ooh,
right?
yes.
We've all seen that and we understand that. But that's the challenge, right? Here's your call to action in that challenge. How do you inspire them?
Mm-hmm. Hmm. How do you give them the necessary skills they need in order to be engaged?
Hmm.
That's one thing that I've seen, is that typically the people that are not engaged, something's missing for them, right?
Hmm.
Something's missing. Whatever it is, it could be lack of skills, right? They don't have the right tools to do their job, right? Maybe they're bored and they need more challenge. Maybe there's lack of promotion at the organization, right? Or lack of support or perceived support.
Hmm.
There's always this underlining reason or root cause, if we will. If you kept asking those whys, right? Like, there's an underlining root cause around it. And we always say, have those conversations, because that is key to culture. It's key to understanding your people.
It is. And yesterday, one of the things that we talked about when we consider pain points is data.
Oh, yes.
I still think about the survey data where we hear a lot of people go, well, we've been doing surveys and we've been doing surveys and we saw maybe a shift here, but overall, I don't know about you, T, but I haven't seen any organization that we've worked with that says, or even in conversation, that they've had massive shifts in their food safety culture data or even in their engagement data,
Hmm.
but yet they've been doing actions and initiatives every year.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I don't think we have met one company that has said that.
No.
We have met organizations or people at organizations that have said, I think we're going to skip our assessment this year because we
Yes.
haven't seen any movement. We have heard that,
Mhm.
but we have not heard one company that said, we've taken this data, right? We knew what to do with this data. We created a strategy, we did the work, and we saw the shift. And not necessarily on the next survey, right?
Yeah.
But even over time, right? People have said to us, like, we've done this survey every 18 months for the past 3 cycles. And we're not going to do it this year because we haven't moved the dial at the organization.
Yeah.
When I think about that, it's, I'm technical, right? We're all technical people. That's who we talk with and and have conversations with. And so I love data just like the next person. But we all know, if we don't have the right data or can't interpret the data or can't take meaningful action on the data, then data is just numbers on a paper.
Yeah. It goes back to, right, every time, right, being technical, like you said, when they were like, do we need to collect this data? I'd be like, ooh, yes, we can. And we could do this and collect this. And then they're like, what are we going to do with it?
Right.
And it's expensive to collect data
Ooh,
and
yes.
not know what you're going to do with it.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I think now think about this at this kind of macro level for the organization. And preparing food safety culture surveys, planning them, communicating them, administering them, pulling them together, asking people to take time out of their workday.
Mhm.
Has the company already committed to investing time and money to shift
Mhm.
those?
Right.
I think that's where we see the miss, where they're like, well, we're going to do it because guess what? Maybe GFSI requirements are looking for data for us to say
Mhm.
yes to that question.
Yeah.
But are we really doing anything with
Right.
it? Have we
Yeah.
even committed for the next steps after that? Or is it just data that's going to sit over here and, not
Yeah.
help us at all?
Yeah. That's that's a really important question. And it's tied to what we even talked about engagement, right? Like think about it, even for yourselves. If someone asks you these really great questions every year, every 18 months, but nothing shifts, what the third time around, right? What are you thinking about that survey?
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
What are you
It's
thinking about it?
it's the classic like cry wolf. We want your help. No, not really. We want
Mhm.
your help. Not really.
Right, right. We want to listen to you. Nope, not really.
Right?
Right,
And so I always laugh when people are like, "Well, we just can't get people engaged." Real what about that is surprising?
right. Exactly. Yeah,
And
yeah.
when I talk about engaging, I don't mean and it does happen one person at a time, one team at a time, but collectively, if an organization's working on it, you will see a shift,
Mhm. Yeah, yeah.
right? It's no different than when you were working on a process and process improvement. If you're truly going to make a change and everybody's on board on that line to do it, you're going to see improvements.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
right, we've all had like I just had somebody yesterday who was like, "Yep, we made some improvements on our packaging line, only to find that night shift doesn't want to use it. So now we still have cases going out the door where the case labels aren't on, or they're
Mhm.
all twisted, or they're falling off in the freezer, and blah 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 blah."
Right, right.
Right?
Yeah.
Day shift is doing awesome with it, but a customer experience is still overall. We're getting cases with no
Mhm.
labels or labels half off.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah.
So,
I
right,
think
it doesn't pay to do it halfway because the experience people have with that is still not enough.
yes, that is like gold right there, right? It doesn't pay to do it halfway.
No.
Right, like when we talk about like doing assessments and surveys and collecting data, like that is great. But if you don't do anything with that data, or if you don't take the right actions,
Mhm.
right, the impactful actions, we kind of talk about like the right metrics, right, for your organization. If you if you don't do those things, right, then you're really only doing halfway. And that doesn't mean that okay, this data has come to us. We've had conversations with people, and this is the path we're going to try in 2024. Well, at the end of 2024, if you haven't seen a shift or even halfway during your check in and you need to pivot, 100%, right?
Mhm.
Like, absolutely pivot, change, learn. We're constantly learning over this process, or you should be learning over this process and change when you need to, because
Mhm.
the very first idea might not be the idea to shift it, right? So that I always like to remind people that you don't have to have the quote unquote right answer the first time you try something. Try it, have conversations, find out what do people love about it, what don't they love about it, right? There's ideas out there in your culture because people are living it every day.
Mhm.
You just have to find it.
You just have to find it. And I think you have to truly want it.
Yeah.
This just comes back to the whole like responsible, accountable, and engaged. Right?
Yeah.
How often is it like, well, I'd like to do it, so I do it part way. And then I'm
Hmm.
disappointed because I don't get the results. In fact, we did a show probably the end of last year on that article that came out regarding CEOs in the C suite and their
Oh, yeah.
frustration around engagement and taking action, but then not seeing results.
Yes.
Right. And
Yes.
they were frustrated because they're like, we're doing town halls, we're doing Q&As, we're sending out more communication, but we haven't shifted our scores. And they get frustrated too.
Mhm. Yeah, that article was so interesting because I mean, it was almost like, wow, of course, because they talked about like the senior leaders that everyone is sort of pointing fingers at, like you're the problem.
Mm.
They're also experiencing the culture, right? So they have their own experiences in the culture. They're probably feeling very similar to you, right? And they may be trying to do these things right within their circle of influence, and that change is not happening,
Mhm.
right? Like that's frustrating for everyone.
Mhm.
The ones that win are the ones that bring on a partner, because within the article it talked about how it's hard to change a culture that you are a part of and actively adding to.
Yeah.
So it's almost like, yeah, you are the problem. You're adding to the culture, right? And you need this outside perspective to be in many cases, right? According to the article, you need this outside perspective that's outside of the culture, right? That's not experiencing the culture the same way you are, that's not contributing to the culture, right? You need this outside perspective to help develop your strategy, right? And help you do the work.
Mhm.
And I kind of think about this because, a few months ago, we did a webinar with TAG, and we're partnered with TAG on the assessment that they do, mainly because they understand that the fantastic work that they do around collecting information around their assessment, the conversations that they have, right? And then the output of their assessment is fantastic.
Mhm.
And then their clients need help with what happens next, right?
Mhm.
Like we've gotten you there some of the way. Let's now work with someone that has the expertise around creating that strategy and helping us do the work so we can
Yeah.
actually see that change.
Yeah. And I always go back to, I have like, I don't know. Have you seen the movie about the Williams
Oh, I haven't yet.
women? Oh, I watched it. I think on the plane once. But it was fascinating because right, they had a driving force to help them reach their goals. And yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that was their dad, right? That was always back there, like constantly helping with mindset, constantly going, well, where do you want to be? Do you want to be here? You want to be there?
Right.
Like
Yeah.
really challenging you on like what are the changes you want to make. And I
Yes.
bring that up because right, they had it outside in another person that just
Mm,
happened to be a family member.
yeah.
But right, even as they've grown or, other great athletes and, people that we see that we think are so highly accomplished have had coaches.
Yeah.
They have had an outside partner to go, how are you going to shift?
Mm-hmm.
And that's not because we don't know. It's not because we can't. It's because we are stuck in we are in our habits of our daily life and our brain, right, is very much like I'm in my comfort zone.
Yes.
Even
Yes.
when we think we've gone outside it, it almost kind of tricks us because it lets us think that, but really we're still in it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard to step outside of what you're in,
Right.
right? It's hard to see the possibilities when you're in it, right? And
Mhm.
sometimes there's those cases where because we are uncomfortable in those situations, that it's hard to even be 100% honest with yourself
Oh,
on the
for sure.
direction to go forward. But with that accountability, that's like, okay, where do you want to be? Okay, you want to be there? Let's play it out. Right? That helps you just really focus on, okay, what do I really want
Mhm.
here? Right? What type of leader do I really want to be? What
Yeah.
type of organization do I want to be in?
Yeah, I think that's such a powerful role to play for people. And that's why we do what we do, right? Because we want technical experts to be the technical leaders that
Yeah,
provide that for their teams,
yeah, yeah.
who provide that so that they can help raise people up, they can help shine their
Mhm,
gifts.
mhm.
But also, because even as much as we think that the leaders above us, or maybe that are on the same level or across, even though we think they've all got it going on, they still need that support as well,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
right?
Yes.
And part of
Yeah.
that's still our role to help, like, encourage people and show that they do have value and know that they matter. It doesn't matter if it's my direct boss or the CEO or if it's somebody that I see once every couple months.
Yeah. Yes. 100%. It's about looking at other people and having compassion for the work that they do and compassion for where they are,
Mm,
right? Because we're all human beings just trying to make it and provide for our families and live in this world of, and do the things that we want to do and that we're passionate about. And each one of us, including our leaders, are feeling that.
they are. And as humans, as these spiritual beings, we seek connections.
Yeah.
And I think we get so tied up in the like, here's my checklist, here's what I need to do. And those are the things that cause these disconnects.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so those are the questions we often get when we talk about what stands in the way, what are the pain points around food safety culture. And it's doing that work to make the connections.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. And you're almost going into that second point that we talked about around pain points, which is really it's hard because or maybe it was the second or third point, but it's it's hard to do those things. It's hard to build connections in relationships if you don't have the skills and competencies to do
Right.
it.
And and beyond what you know today. I think
Yes.
that's the key. It's beyond what you're doing today.
Yeah.
And so even when you think, well, that's outside my comfort zone, but it depends. Do you want different results or not? If
Right.
you are like, I'm good where I'm at, then keep doing what you're doing. That doesn't mean there's
Mhm. Yeah.
anything wrong with it. But I think the part is when we work with people who are like, but I want more, but I don't want to move over there. Well, then where do you
Yes.
want to move? How does that look?
Mhm. Mhm.
Because
Yes.
something has to shift, people.
Something has to shift, right? And really, as culture is not static, right? It's constantly moving. And it's funny when we talk to people and they say, "Oh, our culture is good. We have nothing to do. We don't have anything to do to improve our culture." Like that to me, something's like, interesting. I can't wait to talk to that person in about a year, in about 2 years and see how things are going. Because if you're not actively focusing on your culture, actively looking at the skills that you need today versus the skills you need tomorrow, right? Like we talked about 44%, right? Of skills, right? It's not even going to
Changing.
it's going to change. And if you're not on top of that, right? Just give it some time. Especially if you're like, nope, we don't need to do anything. We need to stay, we're just here and we're good.
Hmm.
Then give it a few years. In many cases, give it a year with the amount of changes that we see. And then you'll realize you're behind, right? You're behind as a leader, you're behind as an organization. It has to be an intentional focus.
It does. Which actually reminds me, I'm like, anybody out there, do they think like one and done?
Oh yeah.
Because I think we see that sometimes with organizations that have done the food safety culture surveys. They're like, well, we did that one thing. Whew, check off the
Yes.
list.
Yes.
You're like, nope, all the time.
All the time.
It
Yeah.
needs to be all the time.
Yes.
Because even if it was something where you're like, wow, people really responded well. Oh, unfortunately, right? We adapt and we're like, our new baseline is this new point.
Right. Yes.
So if we want to keep people engaged, we have to keep leveling up on our games.
Mhm.
And I know that seems like a continuous cycle of like, when does it ever stop? But here's the thing, why does kindness, joy, and happiness have to stop?
Right. Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
no such thing. That sounds ridiculous. What? I'm going to stay over here and be disappointed and frustrated? No.
No,
We're
yes.
we're going to
Exactly.
keep looking for joy and peace
Mhm.
and happiness and connection. So that cycle never ends.
Yes. Yes. It's funny because like we understand that concept with continuous improvement when it comes to equipment,
Yes.
right? When it comes to our programs and our policies, but when it comes to ourselves with being, better leaders every year, keeping in touch with our people, right? Like it's like we think it's a one and done thing and that's it and I've taken the course and I'm done,
Yeah.
right? But we know that doesn't work. Otherwise, we would do it with our equipment, right? We'll do it we wouldn't have a continuous improvement module, right? In all of our systems, right? We wouldn't have a continuous improvement function. Some
Mhm.
organizations literally have people focus on continuous improvement in the organization. There's a
Yes.
reason why that's valuable to an organization and to ourselves. So think about it in the same way as your own self. How are you improving this year? Right? How
Mhm.
are you being intentional about it? Because we know continuous improvement doesn't happen just because we say, "Hey, we want to continuously improve." Right? Like what are you doing to improve it? What projects are you doing around yourself and your leadership development and how you're moving your culture forward? What project are you working on this year around that?
Yes. I love it. And Tia, there's people out there. I'm curious who's out there and who they're like, I need a group around me who like keeps me motivated in this. Like I join
Mhm.
you on Wednesdays. We love that, but like I just need that little bit more something or just right. We need the community
Mhm.
that encourages us, inspires us.
We do. We
So of
do.
course, I'm going to shamelessly plug like boot camp because be part of
Mhm.
that.
Yeah.
But I'm also going to drop Tia. I'm super excited about launching our Catalyst community.
Absolutely. Which we're
And
not
there's
going to say much about, Jill. We're not going to say much
I
about it
know, but
because we
we
are working.
hear you out there saying we need a space to do this.
Mhm.
It's coming. Let me
Mhm.
just say it's coming. So if you
Yeah.
haven't already signed up to be like part of our email subscribers, yeah, I think we have a download service. Like if you go on
Mhm.
our page and at the bottom, just get the little bit about us,
Yeah.
join the email because you'll be the one who gets to know more about this.
Yes, yes. And I love it that Jill is excited. I'm excited about
Don't
it.
you love how Tia's like, don't say too much yet because we have a few things to work out.
We do, we
But
do, we do.
I-
But you know what? We are super excited about this. And if you know us, right, if you worked with us or if you had conversation with us, community is like top for us because we do need these groups. And Joe, I think you even said it earlier that we crave connection.
yeah.
Like literally our bodies crave this connection. And as we grow as leaders, it's important to have that connection.
Hmm.
So you know us, we are working behind the scenes and
We
we hope
are.
to launch it and have more information out. But join our this list because you're going to be the first to know if you're
Mhm.
there.
Yeah, and there's lots of ways to do that. If you download our boot camp modules, if you get our overview of services, I think we even have like a dollars for development workbook out there on our website. So go out and make it a twofer. Like get some information from that and then be on the list to be
Yes.
in the know.
Yes,
So,
yes, because it's important, right? It's important to have your community around you. You get more of us
yep. And others.
about and others in the space that are dealing with similar problems,
Hmm.
right? That or at least need have those similar thoughts that need to be like, yes, okay, yesterday happened. Today is a new day. How are you going to show up as a leader? Right? What are these tips and tricks and ways to even just reset yourself, right, as a leader, because we know being a leader is hard. And whether you lead people directly or not, being a leader in an organization, that's hard. And there's a lot of work to do. And most likely, you don't have the amount of people that you would like.
Hmm.
And so that makes it a little bit difficult. And so having a community around you helps lighten that load in some way.
It does. Or and gives ideas, right? Because
Yeah.
that's what's here. It's here to learn from each other, to share from each other, to grow together.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, yes. And so we're excited about that. We're excited for the people that's in our community to be
She's like,
in
stop
our
dancing over
actual
there,
community.
Jill.
I know. I love it. I love it. I love it. Yes, we're so excited about it. And if you participated in our programs, we're definitely looking forward to giving you something that's special. So
Yeah. So
our
just
next cohort, Jill mentioned it in the spring, starts February 6th.
it
So
does.
join us, be a part of that cohort. I definitely feel like it's going to be our best cohort yet.
Well, I'm so excited because already I mean, we have some seats left. So if you're
Mhm.
interested, by all means check it out. But we already have people signed up from different areas of the industry with
Yeah,
different experience and different roles. Like I love that we have people that want to join us that are diverse in people but diverse in industry and all of the other things too.
absolutely. It's that
We
community, right? Like we really do build that community in all of the programs that we do. And we think it's important because of the things we've already mentioned around community,
Mhm.
that support, right? That support and just not support from us, but the support from your peers, right? And people in the industry that you can lean on and connect with. So we're excited about that one.
Yes, we are.
Hopefully to eliminate a pain point, right? That's out there.
Well, for sure. At least one.
At least one. At
At
least
least one, right? Because it's one at a time.
it's one at a time.
It
It's
is
one at a time.
one at a time. It's not one of these, I think what was it? Someone once said, like, I want to have the epiphany,
Oh, yes. Yeah.
right? And those are the things that we all crave. And it doesn't mean and it can come. right? There could
Mhm.
be these moments, but I think it's the little moments. We always talk about leadership is in the little moments,
Yes. Yeah.
right? So that when you look back, and you've probably done this in roles in life and programs, right? Where you look back and you're like, okay, at least a year ago, we would have handled it this way. So look how far we've
Mhm.
come.
Mhm.
A year ago, I would have led like this, but now look at where I'm at.
Yes.
So I
Yeah.
think sometimes the epiphany is, once again, the little moments that you can then recognize.
Yeah.
Look how far I've come.
Yeah.
Look how far we've come.
Mhm.
Look at what we've done.
Yes. That's so important. That's so important. And it's in those moments that you have to be open enough that the epiphany might come from that, right? It might come from having a conversation or connecting with someone or doing your daily work or reflecting. And it's important to open, it's almost like it's that mindset, right? Have this mindset of being open and welcoming and ever learning, right? That's when those things come to us.
That's when they show up. Yeah.
That's when they show up.
So yeah, I'm curious, like, if you're here with us, what are some of the things that you're like, that stands out? That's a pain point, or here's what I'm excited about.
Yeah.
Drop it in the chat. And if you have dropped it in your chat, then I'm gonna go out to LinkedIn and see, because sometimes
Yeah, I'm here. I don't see
are you?
anything there. Yes. Yes. I don't see anything
Oh,
there.
Kevin, what a great comment. If you have nothing wrong with your culture, you may not be in tune with your culture. Oh,
Ooh.
high fiving
That's a
you on that one.
that is a good one.
Yes. And I think the other part with that too is, right, we always are, and I like that we're saying there's nothing wrong, but I think the other part is like we can still make it better.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I think one of the parts that initially started when we talked about food safety culture is like, well, we just need to overhaul it, or we just need to improve it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think we also have to remind people like there's a whole lot of stuff that got us to where we are today. And a lot of that's probably really good.
Mhm. Mhm.
So, what are the parts that have really worked that we need to hang on to and you bring forth? But then where are the others that are like just not serving you anymore?
Mhm.
Like
Mhm.
those are the things, like surgically extract those if you can and like make the changes.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's true, and I think people sometimes get overwhelmed because they think, "Oh, man, we have to redo this whole culture thing, right? We have to, like, rip up the carpet, right, down to the studs," and that's not really what it's about. It's about understanding where you are and then what little bit you're working on each year. We talk about, like, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right? Like really taking those pieces, right? The most important pieces, and then tackling it that way. But yeah, I like that. If you have nothing wrong with your culture, yeah, might
That
not
is
be in
good.
tune with it. Might not be in tune with your people because there's always something to improve, right? Yeah, continuous improvement is key.
It
It
is.
really is. It
It,
really is. And
yes,
we know it. That's the thing. Like, we know it. That's why it's a part of our business plan, right? We just have to do those things for ourselves as leaders.
so I'm curious, like what's the highest priority continuous improvement activity you're working on? So if you're
Mm,
here with us live, right, drop it in the chat. If you're here on replay, drop it in the chat because we're still going to get that message.
yes.
I'm
Yes.
always curious because then, even as you think about that, one of the things I ask a lot of our clients, or I started asking, thank you, Sam Pena. You're joining us in May, but he asked me, what are your next 3 moves? And I went, ooh,
Mhm.
that's that's a different question
Wow.
than, well, what are you doing next?
Yes. What are your next moves?
Isn't that powerful? What are your next 3 moves?
Yeah, I
So you
like
really have to think about like what are those things? Because I want to get over here. So what are the 3 things?
yes.
Wow.
Yes.
So if we're working on continuous improvement because it's key,
Yeah.
what are you working on? What are
Mm,
your next 3 moves?
yeah. That's important. That kind of gets your mind thinking, right? Like your next 3 moves. It's not
Hmm.
like your overall projects, right? It's really like, what are your next 3 moves you're going to do in this area, right? That seems to be important. That
Yeah.
is important to you.
Yeah. And if you two are thinking that's a powerful question, I think it's May. It's going to come up in May. So keep your eyes open. Sam Pena, connect with him on LinkedIn too.
Mhm.
He's been in food for a long time in sanitation. He's also a coach. So, like, really love connecting, right? To hear other approaches and what's happening because
Mhm.
we're always learning too. That's our
Mm.
continuous improvement.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. That's a part of who we are, right? And how we even grow as coaches is really that
Yeah.
continuous improvement.
Yes, right? Like, I mean, we've got some things we're working on to bring to you later this year for continuous improvement on how to serve in this space, not only from a program standpoint, but right, T and I, like, right, full disclosure, we did not start as business owners. We started as technical nerds. So, right, we're still learning on that end as well.
I love it. We started as technical nerds. That
We
is so
did. Well,
that is
I mean,
so
in a way,
we maybe started as like baby nerds,
we did.
right?
Even though I think the gift is right. We all have these different gifts, and sometimes we're in a space and we use some gifts, but we have more. We have more than what we do. And I think, Tia, that's one of the things I love about working with you is like exploring these spaces where I'm like, right, like I do a lot of social for us. And I'm like,
Mhm.
oh, if you would have asked me that 5 years ago, I'd be like, no, I can't do that. Getting in on LinkedIn like that is super scary.
Mhm.
But see, here's the thing. This is what's great about challenging ourselves and the people we work with. Like
Mhm.
here, look, here we are on live.
Here we are. Here we are. And it's one of the things too where I felt the same way about live, where it's like, whew, every single week I have to get in front of people, right? And not just people, I have to look presentable for people every single week. But you know what? And I can't say that I'm not nervous every single week, right? Or think about it every single
hmm
week. But it's like it's that push of sitting in outside of your comfort zone. With when eventually, right, this becomes a part of your comfort zone, and then you need to stretch a little bit more
Yep.
because that's how we grow.
Yes.
That's really how we grow. It's very similar to what Kevin said. If you have nothing wrong with your culture, or if you are just comfortable and you are sitting, unless you are close to retirement and that's what you plan on doing, then I would say you should feel a little uncomfortable some of the time. Right. And even honestly, in retirement, how many times do people pick up new hobbies and they do new things that their families are like, what are you doing? You've never even done this, But it's because I think even as we get older, like we even try to expand ourselves. Like we're start looking for these opportunities to expand ourselves for whatever reasons.
Yes. There
And
was
how do you intentionally do that as leaders?
yes, there's this great podcast called How to Be a Better Human
Oh,
by I think it's Patrick Duffy. And a few episodes ago, well, probably end of last year, he featured this woman who she's like 90 something. I don't remember the exact age. But here's the thing, she's a competitive swimmer,
oh
but
wow.
she didn't start swimming till she was 70.
Wow.
Isn't that incredible? Like
Yes.
that is inspiring to be like, huh, right?
Yes.
There's plenty of time. Start something new. Jump in.
Yes. Oh, so I wonder what she would say if someone asked her, what are your next three moves?
Right? I'm
Right.
sure she's got something.
Oh, yes, for sure. For
Yes. And
sure.
and I like this, the sharing of like what are you working on? Refresher trainings and product testing plans. Mm,
That's Hermina. Yeah, like refresher trainings and product testing as your next moves. That sounds meaty,
mhm.
fun, and impactful.
Yes. Yes. And of course, we never have just one question. So we always want to know more. Like, how did those bubble up to the top? What's going to be
Mhm.
different about refresher training? How do you want people to experience that?
Yeah. Yeah.
We'd always love to know that. So if you need a sounding board, if you need, chat, we're always happy.
Yeah, reach out to us. Many times people reach out to us and said, "Hey, we're trying to tackle this pain point, right? What do you suggest? What do you suggest?"
hmm
Because one thing that I found, Jill, I'm kind of curious on what your thoughts are, but a lot of us are dealing with the same issues. It's almost like, I mean, we've been talking about food safety culture for a while, right? Like even before Frank Giannis's book, right? Like people in food safety we have been working on food safety culture.
Mhm.
One of the things that we've seen at Catalyst is that we haven't been able to move the dial because we're trying to use the same tools we've been using,
Mhm.
right? Like we have a hammer and we're trying to nail everything, right? We're trying to hammer every single thing
I'm
that
trying to do plumbing, but I only have a hammer.
right. I'm just gonna bang it because that's what we're used to doing. That's what we have been taught to do. But when we start thinking about people, right, ever changing people and people behaviors, we have to have new tools and new skills. So even thinking about, right, like, and I'm not sure how your refresher trainings kind of tie up to your overall culture goals, but even thinking about like, how do we do refresher trainers training differently this year?
Mhm.
Right? How do we get insights from our people during refresher trainings, have different
Mhm.
conversations tied to this bigger goal of new competencies and new skills around building relationships and mindset and influence?
Mhm. And that may be an overhaul, it might be or it might be sprinkling things in. Ooh, exciting.
Yes. It is exciting. It's exciting for us to have these conversations. The reason why we talk every Wednesday, because it's like it's almost like a, I don't know, maybe a reset, or maybe, we've talked about it, new tools for the industry. But I mean, we see it, right? We see, oh, the question around KPIs, right? Like that's also a pain point where people are like, what KPIs should I do? Or my
Oh,
KPIs are not strong enough. Which one should I use for culture? Right? Like we're trying to use the same type of KPIs, right? Audit scores. Before food safety culture got rolled into GFSI, you probably still had audit scores as a KPI, right? If that's the case, how is it shifting?
yeah.
Now that culture is front of mind for your organization, how does focusing on the same KPI you were focusing on before shift something new?
Well, and a lot of companies have done engagement surveys for years.
For years, for
So
years.
I know there's this specific food safety culture, which, right, gets a little more granular,
Mm-hmm.
but yet we also have engagement.
Mm-hmm.
And those things are, as we know, hand in hand.
Right. Yes.
Yes. So,
Yes. Yes. Yeah,
well,
that's definitely one of the pain points that people talk about on like, how do we track? What are our KPIs? And one other thing, and I always say this with KPIs, so you probably have heard it before if you've heard me talk about it, is that they are not one size fit all, right?
no.
Like you might not have the same culture goals as another organization because you don't have the same culture, right? You don't have the same culture as the other organization. So what is it that your culture needs to focus on? Right?
Mhm.
What are the continuous improvement efforts that you need to focus on as a leader within
Yeah.
your team, within your organization?
And this is stuff that you already talk about in your organization. So think about, well, we want to have less downtime. Yes, you are monitoring downtime, but I hope you're also monitoring things like startup time, line changeover time, like
Yeah.
maintenance issue times. Like those are the things driving this.
Yes.
And I think that's what we see in food safety cultures. People are like, well, we're going to monitor this and then do something, but not necessarily monitor it over here.
Right. Exactly.
This stuff over here, the actions that are driving this to change are the things that need to be the
Mhm.
KPIs.
Yes.
This is just a number to watch.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's those lag and lead metrics,
Mhm.
right? Making sure you have leading metrics is very important.
And make them real. I know sometimes, right, we see people hesitate where they're like, well, I don't see anybody else using that, or that's not aligned with anything else we do in our organization. Who cares? You need
Mhm.
something that's meaningful for you to know and for your team to know. What are we actually working on? What's important?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
in our downtime, if somebody is like, we're not going to track turn like changeover time, what that tells me as an employee, as a team member, is like changeovers really aren't that important then.
Mm. Yeah.
Right? You're just hoping downtime changes, but we're not really that serious because we're not going to measure the things
Right.
that matter.
Right. Exactly.
Culture is the same way.
Mhm.
Culture is the exact same way.
Mhm, mhm.
So,
Yeah, and it also filters into those engagement scores, because like, or the data that we talked about, right? Like you using the example of downtime and changeovers, right? Your team is like probably silently screaming, our changeovers are so long because his piece of equipment keeps breaking down every time. Or we
Yes.
don't have what we need from a tool standpoint, or from
Yes.
maybe we need a stage differently. And your teams are like, screaming that at you, even if it's silently screaming, right? As
Yep.
leaders, it's our job to have those conversations. But it's like that is screaming at you. But if you're like, no, we don't want to track it, right? Then people become less engaged because they know you're not really there to help remove barriers.
And I love that you brought that up because I only went to changeover time. But if the driver is, do we have the right tools when we need them? Now that has become the KPI.
Yes.
That is the thing we monitor. So,
Yes.
right, this is how we have to get granular like this.
Mm-hmm,
And those
mm-hmm.
have to be the things that even the CEO sees this. Like,
Yes.
yes, changeovers are important, but why do we keep not having the right tools when we need them? Why
Mm-hmm,
don't we have the right supplies there when we need them? Those
mm-hmm.
are the questions that drive business actions, not why isn't the changeover number not moving?
Yes. Yes. And what you're talking about, Jill, is work,
That's the
right?
work.
Like
That's
it
work
takes
to do.
work. It takes work to do it. You know, I remember when we were struggling with sanitation time on one of our lines, and like we had to go down for sanitation every 24 hours, and sanitation would take 12 plus hours every single
Mm.
time. So as you can imagine, operations were not happy about it. And so when this sort of I was voluntold to kind of solve this issue, honestly. The first thing I did was spend time on all three shifts, just observing and asking questions. Every time the line went down during sanitation, we had a fault in our CFP system, right? Someone there to turn it off? What was the fault? All of those things. I just listened and documented, right? And then we figured out what are some things we should actually be measuring versus just sanitation time. Like what was contributing to those 12 hours of sanitation time? We had no idea until, I had to set aside a lot of time, right, to figure that out. But that is the work. That
That's
is
the work.
exactly what was needed and where I should spend my time if we wanted to lower the lag metric of sanitation time. And one thing that I'm happy about is that my manager gave me time to do it.
Mm.
Right. And that's key because they knew this would take work. Right. So me coming in on third shift and spending time, right? I just said sanitation was 12 hours. So I was there for a while, right? Tracking these changes. But I also had that flexibility to do that,
Mm.
right? Because that was what was important for that line in our operations team, right? In our business.
Support for the role.
Support
Oh,
for the role.
well, look at even though we had to pivot. So once again, if you showed up thinking, "Where's Maggie?" We're gonna get with Maggie, and we will have Maggie for you
Yes.
coming up. There'll be more on that. But we also, right, just the open this space just to talk about pain points and talk about things that come up that we hear from people or that we see as we're working with clients. So if you've got questions or if you have something like we love when you add to the
Mhm.
conversation, reach out to us.
Yeah.
You can, right, if you're here on LinkedIn with us, you can message Tia and I or
Yeah.
hello at Food
Mhm.
Safety Catalyst. There. Thanks, Tia.
Mhm.
That's our email. And of course, we're here to support you too. Everything we talked about today, we talk about in some way, shape, or form in boot camp,
Mhm.
right?
We do.
Starting in boot camp. We also do, if you don't know, we do workshops a lot with different companies, private workshops. We
Mhm.
also talked about this new sprinkling of the community. So stay
Mhm.
tuned for that and other things. We even do, believe it or not, traditional consulting.
We do.
So, as people are working on how do I create space as a leader, we often will help even carry some of that load
Mhm.
till things are in place.
Yeah.
So, I share all of that because if you're wondering, what do we actually do to help people? Those are the types of things we do.
Mhm. Mhm. Yes.
And we would love to see you in boot camp.
Yes, we would. February 6th. We're so excited. We're so excited about that. And I want to call out another thing just because we had the conversation today is that if you have been taking culture surveys and
Mhm.
assessments and you're not seeing movement, let's have a conversation because you probably have this wealth of data.
Mhm.
We're just going to figure out, do we need to collect different data, new data, have different conversations, right? And then what are we going to do around it? Where does the work start to actually move that dial?
Yes. That's what it's all about. Better together with partners,
Very.
community, moving it
Very.
all forward.
We are excited you all joined us
Yes.
today. We have so much more for you all in 2024. If you are on replay, because we do post this on our blogs and on our YouTube channel, please put hashtag replay and add your comments to the comment thread, because we do get notification of those.
We
So we
do.
appreciate that.
Yes. So thank you for spending your Wednesday with us or being here with us on replay. We appreciate you.
Yes. Yes.
So make it a great week, and we will see you back here next week. Same time, same place.
Yes. Bye, everyone.
Bye bye.